Good evening. Can you hear me? Wonderful. I've been told that I really don't need a microphone. I can be awful loud, so I apologize if that does occur. Welcome to the Handley 100th Alumni and Faculty Veterans Recognition Program. We're very happy that you all chose to be with us this evening. My name is Vic Arthur, Handley class of 1971 and a veteran of the United States Army. I'll be the MC for the first part of tonight's program, and then I'll happily turn it over to Kim Ball, who is the Handley 100th Events Chair. Vice Chair. You do a lot anyway, Kim. On June 13th, the Handley 100th celebration kicked off with a ceremony exactly 100 years after the laying of the school's original cornerstone in 1923. On that day, this past June, Virginia's U.S. Senators Kane and Warner arranged for the flying of an American flag over the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. in honor of Handley's 100th anniversary. Today, we are displaying that flag during this program, which is up on the wall. I invite you to stand to honor our country as the Handley Chamber Choir performs. Huh? Thank you. Wonderful job. Those of you who are our honored guests today share two common bonds: military service and Handley education. We will focus on military service throughout this evening's program. But for now, in recognition of the Handley connection that most of us here share, and especially in honor of our school's 100th anniversary, we will again hear from the Handley Chamber Choir as they perform the school's alma mater, and rise as you are able.
Stands the home of Handley.
And the Handley Chamber Choir is under the direction of Ms. Gloria Law. Thank you. Hopefully everybody has a program. There's some right out in the lobby as you head in here, but on the back of it, you'll see a list of persons and organizations that help make this recognition possible. I certainly want to thank our reception sponsor, Navy Federal Credit Union, others listed as you see them, students and faculty of Handley High School. I would encourage you to, the exhibit, which is next door, runs through Saturday. If you haven't had a chance, please take a look at it and share it with family and friends. It'll be, again, open through Saturday. And also, I want to plug the upcoming Handley 100th events. In your program, there's a handley1.com that you can go to check it out, along with the newspaper and the website. One thing that Kim told me is, she said, Vic, you may have to improvise. So I'm going to improvise right now. And I'm saying this from personal experience. Those of you, if you have any kind of function that you're responsible for, a dinner at your house, work, a church, some big function, someone has to make it happen. Someone has to coordinate everything that takes place. And I can tell you, as far as this function and other functions with the Handley 100th, Kim has done nothing short of a fantastic job. And I just want to recognize her. Thank you, well deserved. Now I'd like to introduce Adam Packham, Handley class of 1998, a veteran of the United States Army from 1999 to 2002. He is founder and president of Heroes on the River to tell you about this exciting program and the opportunity it provides to combat vets. Need to hit the switch.
First of all, I want to thank you all for having me today. Like you said, I'm Adam Packham, president and founder of Heroes on the River. We are a 501c3, 100% nonprofit organization with the mission to bring combat veterans together through outdoor adventures. Some of the things we do are hiking, camping, fishing, skiing, snowboarding, skydiving. We actually have a hike coming up this weekend on the Appalachian Trail. We're going to be doing 33 miles in 3 days. We'll be leaving Winchester about 4:30 a.m. on Friday and returning, finishing out our trip about 3 p.m. on Sunday. My wife and I started Heroes on the River because we saw a greater need for there to be more resources for the military community, especially our combat veteran community. And most of us in here know well, and unfortunately, the amount of lives that we lose to self-inflicted wounds from their time in service. So when we started Heroes on the River, we first had a barbecue that we held on the Shenandoah River. We had live music, catered food. We had a couple other veteran nonprofit organizations that provide different services. We did that for a couple of years and then realized we needed to be doing something more and came up with the decision that outdoor adventure was going to be the best thing because it kind of brings back the same feeling that we had when we served, that same sense of adventure and adrenaline and camaraderie, that same brotherhood and sisterhood, that same feeling you got when you did your job in the military. So when we decided that, we started with a couple of fishing tournaments. We held a couple in the Delaware Bay and one in Virginia Beach. We've done some other trips on the Appalachian Trail and also on the Tuscarora Trail. We've also hold an annual cookout that we do, try to do every year. The pandemic kind of screwed that up a little bit, but that's one event we open to all veterans and their families, and we'll have multiple resources at that event for the military community, along with live music and things for families to do. One of the things that we've noticed through this work is the difference it makes in these soldiers' lives. A lot of them, when they're transitioning from the military life into the civilian life, and it's still not where it should be nowadays. Unfortunately, our Vietnam veterans really didn't get much of anything, and our Desert Storm veterans weren't getting much either, and even now, the transition process for our service members isn't near what it needs to be, especially for those who have served in combat. They come home, they're not really given much of information about what's out there in their communities as far as resources. We work with all kinds of other organizations and individuals and people who want to hire, support, and help veterans, whether it be through mental health, entrepreneurship, employment, education. It doesn't just stop with Heroes on the River. We want to help veterans get connected to all the resources they earned, but we focus highly, particularly on the work we do. And when you have a veteran tell you, that the work you're doing more than likely saved their life, it's pretty impactful. It really kind of pushes us and drives us to continue to fight hard for our service members, because really kind of, unfortunately, a lot of what we have is each other. And fortunately, we do live in a wonderful community where there is tons of support. There's tons of people who are passionate about what they do. And if you're a veteran from this area, you're fortunate, because there's a lot of areas across the country where there's not resources like we have here. And we've had veterans reach out to us and utilize resources here locally from where they are. We've even helped veterans from California get connected to their disability resources, because a lot of them aren't aware of that are even qualify for disability. I mean, we're meeting veterans who have a 0% rating who are on their way right now to being 100%. I mean, there's too many of our, if we're seeing it within our community now, how many soldiers are suffering just within here, and just the folks that we come across, imagine how bad it is across the country for our folks. So it's vitally important for us to work together and fight hard to continue to grow the resources and make each other aware of organizations like ours and other ones that are doing such great work. It was also, we work with a lot of other programs too to help support and educate the community on veterans. And fortunately, we were able to, I don't know if everyone's seen, I'm sure you've seen them, all the banners that are displayed around Winchester. Well, I'm on the board for that program, and we had seen it in other communities and knew that it was something we had to do here, because it just made me feel more patriotic when I drove through some of those other communities, seeing those banners honoring their veterans. So all of these banners that are displayed are veterans from our local community. These are all people that served our country here. And Jerry Headley, he was he was the first banner that we displayed there at Bonnie Blue. But since the start of the program last year, we had 200 and I believe 5 or 10 total banners that we had gotten sponsorships for. So we got Winchester, Stevens City, Berryville, and Middletown are all part of the same program. And we have leadership from all 4 communities that are helping with that. I know we've had some people asking some questions about when we're going to relaunch the program, and that'll be happening again right after January. We haven't set a date specifically for that yet, but if you know a veteran who wasn't honored this time, please spread the word. You're welcome to sponsor a veteran. We're working on building a 501c3 for it, so that's our next step for the organization, is to have a 501c3. We're actually working, our banners will go up right around Memorial Day, and they'll come down right around Veterans Day. So they're about to come down now, and we're actually trying to work with the local school systems, the Frederick County school systems and the Winchester City school system, to display these banners in the off months so that we can educate our children and our youth about the importance of service to your country. We're also working on a program, I'm also working on a program where we can go into the schools and educate the school system and the community about the flag and the proper retirement for the U.S. flag and what that means, and how important it is for us to never forget the sacrifices that were made under that flag. So there's lots of great programs coming along. We really love what we do. We try to get involved in anything veteran at all. So if you know a veteran that could utilize our resources, our outdoor adventure, please let them know. We are combat veterans specific when it comes to that, but we do not turn any veteran away when it comes to helping them get what they earned. So I appreciate y'all having me here today and the opportunity to speak about what we do, and God bless America and Handley High School, right? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Adam, for what you and your organization do for our veterans. Now I'd like to introduce Jacob Schaefer, sponsor of the Handley Class of 2024, to remind us of the story of the Roll of Honor Board at Handley and tell about a new project related to the board and Douglas School World War II veterans.
Good evening, everyone. First, I just want to point out, I know in your programs it says Caitlin Eckelberger was supposed to be here. She really did want to be, she just wasn't able, so I'm going to speak in her space for tonight. We are co-sponsors for the class of 2024, which is this year's current seniors. And we have an exciting class gift that we are presenting to Handley and Winchester this year that we would like to share with you. I'm going to introduce here in a second our class representatives. But if you look up here, we have an image. If you haven't seen this before, this is the Roll of Honor that is currently posted in the Patsy Cline Theater at Handley. It is a very large memorial that we have that was a gift of a previous class from, I believe it was 64, off the top of my head, that, I'm sorry? 44. Was it 44? Okay. And so they are going to expand on this, and they're here to tell you about this exciting thing that they are planning to do. So without further ado, I'm going to let the students take over and tell you about our exciting plan for this. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alexandra Glusak. I'm part of class of 2024, and this year we actually have a really fun project that we're working on for our class gift. We want to honor the Black veterans of Winchester who fought in World War II. Currently, there's a board in the Patsy Cline Theater called the Roll of Honor, which, as you know, is a beautiful, large board, which was given by the class in 1944. This was part of a project to find all the names of veterans that fought in World War II and that went to Handley. Because the Douglas School students were integrated into Handley after the Roll of Honor was created, those names unfortunately are not included at this time. So our goal is to add the names of these veterans and to finally honor all of the service members from World War II who went to Winchester. So all of them who went to school in Winchester together. The larger aim of this project is to teach students about the hard work and sacrifice of service members that came before them in their families and communities. In addition to the Board of Names, we are working to make a physical and online exhibit that shares pictures and stories of World War II veterans who attended both schools. So we really just want to say how many students, volunteered and were sent off into war during World War II. This board is actually even bigger than you can see on the little trifold that we have here. There's a few more columns, and there's even a larger amount of students. So we're just really excited to be able to honor all of those.
As seniors, we would like to show current and future students how these World War II veterans were people who looked like them and went to the same school as them, and how they are an important part of not only Handley's history, but Winchester's history. And this project is similar to the Roll of Honor project because we are searching for names of service members from the area. Many of the resources we are using were possibly used for the Roll of Honor project, like scrapbooks that contained every article written about about the war from 1942 to 44. Currently, we have compiled over a list of 250 names that were not previously included in the project. We went to the Juneteenth, and we got names there, and we've been here at the library in the archives multiple times looking through some of those books, and we have found names from there. One challenge is that this is 80 years away from the war and from the original Roll of Honor project. Fortunately, historians from the past and present have worked hard to preserve this history. We couldn't have done this without the help of so many people throughout this process, and can still use all the help we can get with research and outreach.
If you or someone you know is able to help us with this project, please let us know. Contact information will be provided on the flyers in the back. And thank you for your time.
Good evening. So that project dovetails so well with the next presentation, which is a slide presentation with live narration by four Handley students who are Chase O'Keefe, Glennis Ware, Jonathan Rogers, and Sylvana Bislimi. So this presentation is about early Handley veterans, and you'll see where we start, and then we include a number of World War II veterans, but as you can see from the board, there are many, many, many more who unfortunately could not be included because of space limitations and time limitations. But hopefully you will enjoy seeing about our alumni of the past and their service to this country. And I think we are about ready to get started.
By way of a mic check, we'd like to thank him for including Handley drama in this program tonight.
Am I good to start? Okay, cool.
Hold on one sec.
Okay, I figured.
I'm not a techie. Fortunately, I have Jade in here to steer me through. But I'm going to sit here and work this. All right.
Good evening, friends. My name is John Handley, but you all know that, right? This part of the program recognizes some of Handley High School's alumni and faculty from the early days of the school who served in the Armed Forces of the United States. I myself wasn't an alumni or faculty member, but I did have a rather close connection to the school, so they decided to include me. As for being a United States veteran, yes, I was, though not to the same extent as these other men and women to be profiled next. I was what was known as a 3-month volunteer in the Union Army during the Civil War. In April 1861, at age 26, in Scranton, Pennsylvania, I enrolled in the Army and mustered out in July 1861. I was assigned to Company E of the 8th Infantry Regiment. Interestingly, my company was sent to the Shenandoah Valley to provide reinforcement for a campaign in the Harpers Ferry area. So in those brief 3 months of my service, when we advanced so far as Bunker Hill, I came within 13 miles of what would later become a very special place to me, Winchester, Virginia.
All right, this is on me. I was working the election yesterday and editing this, and I have a little bit of a shorter version, so I'm going to make sure the students have this.
Thank you.
Are we right? Sorry about this. Am I giving you the right ones?
I believe so.
Okay, and so that will go underneath their numbers. I apologize, but I thought a little bit of editing was in store.
We can use this time to thank you all for coming to the Winchester System-wide musical, where all of these actors performed in Adam's Family Basin way. So thank you for coming out to that.
Okay, and then it's going to be Intermatics. Who's Intermatics? Who's reading the Bible?
We've read over a little bit, but we don't have the names specifically.
two weapons, yes. I have the whistle. I'm going to give it to you. And whoever is reading that roll, starting with the whistle. Okay? And the people here will understand.
Got it.
Okay. All right.
Is it me?
But it's not for a while yet.
Where is it?
You'll recognize it when you see it.
Sorry about that. All right. Let's meet Mr. Manning.
My name is Guy E. Manning. I served in the United States Army in the Spanish-American War in 1898. So, how did I end up in your Handley slideshow? In 1922, the U.S. Army assigned me to the school as commandant of the Cadet Battalion, which was then made an official ROTC unit for military training. The U.S. War Department provided the school with complete military equipment, including target rifles, sabers, and bayonets. In 1923, the school became Handley High School with the construction of the majestic building using funds from the Handley Trust. That's how I, proudly, am a military veteran forever linked to Handley High School.
The Cadet Battalion and the Cadet Band. The Cadet Battalion consists of two companies which competed in military drills between themselves and against military academies in the Shenandoah Valley. While formally trained in marching and riflery, the boys also gained progress in physical, mental fitness, discipline, and neatness, and teamwork. When the Handley opened, it was noted that the school yearbook that only 2 boys within the school were capable of playing musical instruments to participate in the cadet band. A very short time later, under the direction of Professor McWee, the Handelian notes, Handley has a band of real, honest-to-goodness musicians, nearly 40 strong, of which any school should be proud.
My name is Paul Robert Hartman. That's me standing next to Captain Manning in our battalion photo. Yes, I'm standing. Though small in stature, I had some important roles in Handley's early days. I was one of the school's first postgraduates, earning a degree in commercial studies. I also replaced Captain Manning as the battalion's commandant when the Army reassigned him in late 1922. I took Handley's Cadet Battalion to new heights, and later I received a commission as an infantry second lieutenant.
Moving on to World War I Handley veterans. These smartly dressed gentlemen are Winthrop R. Legg and Edward Perry Browning, better known as Winnie Legg and E.P. Browning, longtime Handley faculty members. Winnie Legg graduated from the Virginia Polytechnic Institute in 1914 and was one of the institution's greatest athletes, earning 16 letters in 4 sports after serving in the U.S. Army during the First World War. He came to Handley High School to teach and coach football. Handley has many outstanding coaches over its 100 years, and Winnie Legg was certainly one of the most outstanding. E.P. Browning also served in the United States Army during World War I, joining the faculty at Handley High School as an English teacher shortly after his discharge and completion of his academic studies. After over 20 years as a teacher at Handley, he became the school's principal in 1950. The 1941 Handleyan was dedicated to Mr. Browning and Mr. Legg for helping to instill patriotism into students of Handley by their examples as faculty who had fought across the sea in World War.
My name is Ralph Stimmel. I graduated from Handley High School in 1935. About 6 years after that, as a bomber pilot in the 8th Air Force, I flew the first daylight raid on Berlin in the Second World War. I flew 30 combat missions over occupied Berlin. I had many harrowing experiences, but one particularly memorable one was when I caught a German bomb in the wing of my fighter, which did not explode, and I had to land the plane at age 24 while trying not to have it detonate. My wife, Genevieve, was an Army nurse.
I'm William Harmon Bell. I graduated from the Handley High School in 1936, and like Ralph, which was my brother, became an Air Force pilot, bomber pilot,
flying combat missions in Europe. My brother was Stuart Bell, who is very well known in Winchester, for whom the archives in this library is named. Stuart lived until his 90s, but unfortunately died in a plane crash in Scotland in July 1945, following the surrender of Germany to the Allied forces.
My name is Mithlin Clow. Most people call me Myth. After graduating from Handley in 1935, I joined the National Guard. In 1941, my unit was inducted into the regular army. I became an officer of Company 1. After Pearl Harbor was attacked, we were sent to England aboard the Queen Mary. In England, we had extensive maneuvers and then were informed that we were going to be on the assault team to land on Omaha Beach on D-Day. And so we did. I lost many men that day and was injured myself. I later received the Bronze Star and Purple Heart.
I am Charles Loring Hoover, Handley High School graduate of the class of 1937. An Army private, I died in action in the Tunisian campaign of North Africa on November 29, 1942. I was 22 years old. I became the first World War II fatality from the Winchester-Friedrich County area. My Silver Star, awarded posthumously, has been gifted to the local historical society and is on loan here for the special Handley Veterans exhibit.
My name is Richard Kern. I was in the Handley High School class of 1938. Like Charles, I served in the Army in North Africa. As a captain, I led troops landing in Anzio, Italy. I eventually earned the rank of major. Like many of my Handley schoolmates, I returned to Winchester after the war to start a business and raise a family. I was proud to see my children go to Handley as well.
My name is Halford Baker. Most people know me as Red. I graduated from Handley in 1938 and served in the U.S. Army in World War II. I was really big into sports in Handley, considering the fact that I had played 3 sports and was a letterman for 5 years. I was also the top point scorer at the state track meet in 1938, and my Handley track teams won the state championship 4 years in a row. I think all the lessons I learned doing sports at Handley really helped me when I served in the Army. Also, by the way, I have the great honor of the first inductee into the JAA's Hunter Maddox Hall of Fame in 1980.
Did someone say my name? Hunter Maddox? No, I didn't attend Handley as a student, but I was there plenty of years as a teacher and coach of football, basketball, and track. In fact, I hear the Handley Gym is now named for me, as well as the Athletic Association's Hall of Fame. I'm very honored. I'm in your program today because I too served in World War II. I was a lieutenant in the Army Medical Corps. Between the Army and coaching, I've heard a lot of whistles.
This might be a good time for me to join the program, following Hunter as a faculty member who served in World War II. My name is Jacob L. Johnson. I began my career in education in the late 30s in other school systems, teaching and being a principal. When America entered World War II, I felt called to duty and entered the U.S. Navy's Officer Candidate School in the fall of 1942. A few months later, I found myself aboard a Navy transport ship en route to fight in the Pacific Theater. As a gunnery officer, I saw combat in the Mariana Islands campaign. After the war, I resumed my career in education and eventually landed in Winchester as the superintendent of public schools, serving for 17 years. In my first in that position, I set a goal to accomplish what had not been achieved at that point, to complete racial desegregation of the school system. 1 year later, it was accomplished. Just as in my service to the country, I was led in this endeavor by my religious faith and my sense of justice for all, as well as loyalty to the U.S. Constitution.
My name is William Beamer. Desegregation didn't come early enough for me to be a Handley student, but my kids and grandkids are proud Handley judges. I went through the 10th grade at the Douglas School. In 1944, I signed up for the Army. After basic training, I was put into a company of carpenters. We were assigned to build bridges across ravines, and they had to be strong enough that a tank could run over them. We got pretty good at it. If they told us that a tank was coming in 6 hours, we could pretty much have that bridge ready for it to cross. We were sent to the Philippines. It took 28 days by ship to get there, and I stayed sick the entire time. When we got there, after the Marines cleared it, my job was to build housing for us, because there wasn't a place for our companies to sleep. When the US dropped the atomic bomb and Japan surrendered, we thought we'd be going home, but it turns out I didn't have enough points built up to go home. So after being in the Philippines for about 12 months, I ended up in South Korea in 2 feet of snow, and they had no living quarters for us. That was the segregated army in the 1940s. We found some old burned out shops and used those to sleep in. 5 months later, I got to come back to the US. When we got to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, my guys and I were trying to get home to Virginia. We had our discharge papers, but they said our car on the train was full, and we'd have to wait for another day. Finally, somebody helped me on the train to Washington, D.C., and about 10 hours later, I got home.
My name is Annabelle, from the class of 1941. I wouldn't exactly say I was very involved or engaged in my school activities at Handley, but after a year of graduating, I learned the opportunity to join WAVES to help the war effort, and I was excited to sign up. I felt I had a purpose. WAVES stands for Women Accepted for Volunteer Emergency Service. We were the U.S. Navy Corps of female members during World War II. Some 100,000 of us served in a wide variety of capacities for the Navy. Some clerical, some highly skilled.
My name is George Craig. I graduated from Handley High School in 1941 at age 16. You may know me as a Handley teacher from 1957 to 1966 and as principal from 1968 to 1985. I was newly 17 when the U.S. entered World War II. When I finally became old enough to enlist, I chose to join the Marine Corps, much to my parents' dismay. Boot camp on Paris Island was really, really tough. They had 9 weeks to whip us into shape because we were headed for war in the Pacific Theater. My ship left the big island of Hawaii on Christmas Day, 1944. We were at sea for almost 2 weeks without any idea where we were headed. Then we learned. Iwo Jima, February 1945. As a 19-year-old, I was part of the invasion of Iwo Jima. The experiences of that event are too profound for a short profile. But let me say this. Many years later, I was asked, aside from being able to serve your country, was your time in the Marine Corps of value to you? And my answer? Oh my, yes. The transition from boyhood to manhood happened in a hurry. I learned discipline, which was valuable in many contexts. I was given leadership opportunities. I learned about commitment and focus. And as the old saying goes, I wouldn't give $1 million for what I went through, but I wouldn't give you a nickel to go through it again.
I am Clayton Cochran, class of 1941. I was a United States Navy pilot. I proved air cover as our troops invaded the shores of Iwo Jima in 1945. Little did I know that my Handley classmate, George Craig, was one of those I was protecting down below. Let me tell you about when I came home from the war. My aircraft carrier sailed into Hampton Roads. The ship was then going to head up to Baltimore. They said anyone who lived within 500 miles could go ahead and fly home. So they catapulted me off the ship and I flew north. I dropped my wingman off in Washington and headed for Winchester. Can you imagine that today? Letting the naval pilots fly their jets home at the end of a war. When I got to Winchester, I flew over my dad's bakery on Indian Alley. He heard me. I was flying low, and he came out to watch me. We lived across from Handley on Jefferson Street, so then I went to find my mom. I was way down on the telephone wires, kind of crazy. Then I saw my mom waving at me, and I opened the cockpit and waved back at her, and I nearly flew into Handley's smokestack. When I landed at the Winchester airport, a policeman pulled up because I had caused such a stir in town. He said to me, "You're in trouble, son." I said, "I'm still in the Navy. Call the secretary." Then I called for my dad for a ride home, but he couldn't leave the shop, so I asked the police officer to give me a ride into town, and he did. When he pulled up on Jefferson Street to let me out, my mom and all my neighbors thought that I'd been arrested. Welcome home from the war.
I am Maurice Blosser, a graduate of the Handley class of 1942. I joined the Naval Air Corps in 1943, and after training, was sent to Northern Africa. We then went into Italy and had active engagement with the Germans. The first time I was injured, it was from a machine gun round in the right leg. I was taken to a hospital, repaired, and less than a week later, back at the front. The second injury was pretty minor, and I was sent back out a few days later. The third injury happened outside Rome, from a German sniper from above who sent a round down through my helmet, through my ear, and the base of my skull. It was nearly a week before I was able to get real treatment for my injuries. And I think it only happened because the Army doctor in the Rome hospital happened to ask where I was from. And when I told him Winchester, Virginia, he said he used to come to Winchester for holidays with a college roommate from Johns Hopkins, where they both went to school because his own parents couldn't afford to bring him home to Nebraska. So he had a good feeling about Winchester, and even though most of the doctors seemed to think I was far too gone, he got me into surgery. They drilled 2 half-inch holes into my skull to relieve some clots, then did a U-shaped trapdoor incision to take out part of my skull so they could clean out the blood clots and the slivers of bullet and helmet that got mixed up in my brain. Then they put the skull piece back in and clamped it in place. Well, it worked. That was in July 1944. By November, I was in a hospital stateside and then released in March from medical care and from the service. I came back to Winchester and built a life here with this lovely lady, Bernice Ritter Blosser. Bernice graduated from nursing school at Winchester Memorial Hospital in 1943, and a short time later was an Army nurse stationed in Seoul, Korea. She also served in Okinawa, Japan. And after her service in the Army, she came back to work as a nurse at the Winchester Hospital for 40 years and to raise our 2 girls.
My name is Doug Butler, and I graduated from Handley in 1942. My brother Robert graduated in 1941. He was the oldest of 10 children in our family. I was the next oldest, 17 months younger than he. We were both drafted in May 1943 and took the oath together. Both of us eventually became gunners in the Army Air Corps. I flew 35 bombing missions, which far exceeded the average number a gunner might live to see. My brother Robert air crashed on Mainz, Germany, while on a mission to strike a target there. He died in 1944 at the age of 21. Although many decades have passed, my siblings and I still think of Robert and wonder about the life that we might have had.
I am Charles Zuckerman. I too graduated from Handley in 1942 and shortly thereafter joined the Army Air Corps, serving until 1946. A little article in the Winchester Star from 1944 notes that my oldest brother, Joe, then 26 years old, joined the U.S. Army in 1941. Brother Samuel, aged 24, entered the Army in 1942. The next brother, Irvin, aged 22, and a graduate of Handley in 1940, also serves. Then came me, age 20, Handley class of 1942, serving in the Air Corps. And finally, my little brother Aaron, aged 18, a Handley student when he enlisted, just finishing up boot camp. 5 brothers, each 2 years apart in age, all serving in the armed forces at the same time, in a time of World War. It's crazy to imagine how hard that was for my parents and sisters. But people accepted things and managed, because it's what the country expected and needed. Remarkably, we all made it home.
My name is Eugene Bob. I graduated from Handley in June of 1943, and that same month enlisted in the Navy. Because I had a musical background, after basic training, I was sent to sonar school, where one has to have good sense of pitch to be able to differentiate the sounds coming from bodies of water. My assignment was to the Aleutian Islands, where it snowed every day and where I was tasked with listening for possible Japanese submarines in the harbor waters.
Do you recognize this face? Yes, it's me, Wilbur Johnston. If you look at my entry in the Handley yearbook, you might think I was a bad student. It shows I was involved in some high school clubs and things as early as 1941, but didn't actually graduate until 1947. Was I so dumb that they kept holding me back? No, the war got in the way. From 1943 to 1946, I served in the Army Air Corps. After the war, I came back to Handley, graduating in 1947. Then I was off to college and then back to Handley as a geography and history teacher.
My name is William Lewis. Most people called me Hink. I had the same situation as Wilbur. I was slated to graduate in 1944, but it didn't really happen until 1947. From what I've been told, there wasn't many boys in the class at Handley in 1943, 1944, and 1945. Everyone was spread around the world fighting. For those of us who made it back and then went back to Handley to finish our schooling, we sure were a lot different than when we had left. We had seen a lot of things and some not so good. Wilbur talked about his yearbook entry. I was always proud that beside my senior yearbook picture, alongside with the clubs and sports I did, it always said veteran. Many guys' entries said 1946 and 1947. How cool is it that alongside track team and FFA and Glee Club, it says veteran? Hey, I know, you folks are all excited right now about your Handley football team. Let me tell you about our team in 1946. We had an 8-1 season and were champions of our district, and a good handful of players at the championship team, including me, were veterans of the United States Armed Forces. So what do you think? We're gonna go back from winning a world war and not win our football district? No way. Let's go, judges, then and now, and let's honor our veterans then and now.
Well, while I'm getting situated, let's give those students another round of applause. So I've learned a lot researching that information about those veterans, and I'll tell you some of the sources. Of course, Handleyans, and some materials in the archives. But I really want to commend to you the journals of the Winchester Frederick County Historical Association or Society. Each of their journals, published annually, profiles a local veteran, and the stories in there are quite amazing, and a lot of the information that you heard just now from the students comes from those articles. They were oral histories that were then transcribed and published. So check those out if you have occasion. So we want to take an opportunity now to recognize four veterans. I think a couple of them are here, and it may have been that a few were unable to be here at the last minute, but these are, and I'm going to ask Harry Smith, who is the chair of the Handley 100th, to come down, and also Jason Van Hookelum, who's the superintendent of Winchester Public Schools, and help me in presenting these. And I'll give you this, and I actually know that this person was unable to come at the last minute due to some professional obligations, and I think Jason will take care of getting it to her. But the first veteran that I want to point out to you, we have certificates of commendation, and they say, Handley 100th, John Handley High School Alumni and Faculty Veterans Recognition, Certificate of Commendation, presented to, in this case, Marie Emo, this 8th day of November 2023 in recognition of, and now in Marie's case, outstanding service to community. Marie is an 8-year veteran of the Army. She is a professional mental health counselor here in town, and she's also the chairperson of the Winchester Frederick County School Board. So I thought it was appropriate that we recognize Marie, and Jason will see her on Friday, I think, at another veterans event and give her her certificate then. Secondly, we want to recognize a veteran, Handley veteran that you heard from tonight, who his award is for outstanding service to fellow veterans. And this is awarded to Adam Packham for all that he does to assist those who have served and who need a little bit of helping hand. And Adam is a good person to do that with his organization. And I'm not sure if this person is here. He's going to be, but this is for outstanding service to country. It's one of the veterans who is profiled in our slide presentation, and as best as we know, is one of the few remaining Handley High School World War II vets, and that is J. Douglas Butler. Is Mr. Butler here? Okay, well, he was planning to be here, but things come up, and so we will make sure that he knows that we recognized him tonight, and we will make sure he gets a copy of the slideshow as well. And then the last one is presented to our own Jerry Headley, who is, as you may know, the most highly decorated veteran in this community, and served for, you tell me, 30 years? 22. Only 22 years. But has, I could probably do a whole program on Jerry's service, but I'll just point out that he's a member of the Handley 100th. He's involved with the JAA. He's president of the Handley Archives. He gets things done, and we're very blessed to have him, and like to recognize you, Jerry. Keep you up here for a second, because when I need something, I call Jerry, and I need something now. All right, thank you, gentlemen, Jason and Harry. All right, now, again, my technical prowess. So now it's time to recognize you who are here for your service, and I'm going to ask Jerry to help me with the service anthems as they're played, and you can, I think you probably recognize them, and you can call them out. You can come over here and use the microphone if you want.
Let me get over here.
Okay. And so when your branch of service is played, if you would please rise and let us recognize you, and then after that recognition, if you are a family member of a veteran from that branch, then you also please stand, because we all know how important family members are within the military, and we've been around a long time. Handley High School, many of our veterans have passed on, but those of you who are survivors, successors of veterans, we want to recognize you as well. So let's hope this works.
U.S. Coast Guard. Oh, it didn't?
No.
Oh, that's the
No,
Army.
No, you're right.
That's the Army. All right.
I don't have it written down. Family? Family?
Who's next? U.S. Marine Corps.
That's you?
Which I was in, yeah, too. Yeah.
Any family of Marines? Navy.
Yeah, yeah, Navy.
U.S. Navy. And family of U.S. Navy.
U.S. Air Force.
Air Force. And family of U.S. Air Force.
That ought to be the Coast Guard.
Coast Guard.
Yeah, it should
Coast
be.
Guard. We're a family of Coast Guard.
Cool. Let me just say two things. One, there is another branch now, and I don't know, I haven't heard their song yet, but the Space Force, that's right. And I haven't heard their song yet. I don't know what it is. It might be the theme of Star Wars. I don't know. But if it isn't that, it should be. Have you heard it? Yes. Oh, good. Okay. I haven't, so I hope to hear it soon. And secondly, comment, I just want to thank Kim for putting this all together. In the video, with all the veterans, and I really didn't know until tonight really how old I was. With the exception of 4 people, I knew everybody in that video. And that's kind of scary.
Thank you, Jerry. And I knew a lot of their children. So it was fun and interesting to learn their stories. And the last thing that we want to do this evening is once again have the veterans and family members stand. We have a special presentation from the Handley 100th Committee, and that is these lapel pins, which were made specifically for our celebration, and we want to present each of you with one of them. So if you would please stand, and some of our students are going to come around and give you your lapel pins. While they're getting ready to do that,
I do want to point out that in the lobby, on your way to the stairs or the elevator, you can find more materials about both the Handley Senior Project Research project and also about Heroes on the River. I know some of you already have them because we've given them to faculty member, we've given them to some of our Handley notables, and also to new inductees of the Hunter Maddox Hall of Fame. These are not for sale, though. They are given to special honorees, and you are part of that. And I'll point out that that young man handing out those pins is the quarterback of Handley's current football team, which will be playing Friday night against Millbrooks. Right. All right. Thank you all for coming.